This is the Collector Car Podcast, the home for the auto enthusiast. Join GStanley as he applies over 25 years of insights and analytical experience to the collector car market. He will interview the experts and throw in some fun stuff as well.
Do you find it challenging working on your collector car? Advantage Lifts has the solution for you with their selection of 2- and 4-post lifts. Advantage's 2-post lifts provide an unparalleled amount of versatility. Each wheel can spin freely and be worked on individually, and you'll have full access to those hard-to-reach parts of the undercarriage. And best of all, Advantage's 2-post lifts are ready to ship now. Get $100 off by using code TCCP for the Collector Car Podcast. Again, that's TCCP. You can find your perfect Advantage lift by calling 763-300-5730. That's 763-300-5730. And don't forget to use the promotional coupon code TCCP. Hey, it's GStanley. If you're listening to this podcast, you know I love everything automotive. This passion has expanded to include being a car specialist consultant for RM Sotheby's. So if you need assistance buying or consigning a collector car at any one of our online or live auctions, including Scottsdale, Amelia Island, or Monterey, you can reach one of our car specialists at rmsotheby's.com, or you can email me directly at gstanley@rmsotheby's.com. Well, welcome to the Collector Car Podcast. As we build to the big Monterey Car Week, I'm extremely thrilled to have this automotive artist on the podcast, Kelly Telfer. Kelly, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to talk to you about Monterey Car Week. It's a really cool event this year.
It is. It is really cool. And I've been wanting to have you on the podcast for a while, most notably because we have a common friend between the two of us. And so I'm thrilled to have you on. And obviously, I love your artwork. For those of my listeners that are not familiar with necessarily your artwork, if you would tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got involved in the automotive space.
Well, you know, I'm glad you asked. It's a fun story. My father was a volunteer turn worker at Laguna Seca Raceway in Monterey, California. And so the first time I went to Laguna Seca, I was 4 years old. And it was 1959, and it was the Pacific Coast Championship. And it was Ferraris and Mercedes, and it was more gentleman racing. In fact, none of the cars had sponsors on them yet, if you can believe that. And the old turn 3, if you missed it, you'd hit the next town over, Salinas. The old turn 3, my dad was the corner worker, and the leader spun out. And I think he was in a Ferrari, and, you know, my father and his buddy, corner worker, push-started him, and he put in the clutch and revved it up, and he looked over at me and winked, and he said, "Slippery, huh?" And he went on to win the race. And, you know, from then on, I was hooked. That was it. So I started drawing cars probably in kindergarten. I still have a Porsche Speedster I drew in second grade, and I did the Speedster script on the fender, the aluminum down the side. I've been a car and Porsche fanatic ever since.
Wow, that's really great. I have that in common with you. I started drawing cars when I was probably in kindergarten or first grade. Part of it because my mom would draw cars for me as a little kid. Now, do you still have that original drawing?
I actually do still have that. I saw it about 10 years ago in a box of, well, you could imagine I've got boxes of old drawings. So I did come across it, so I believe I still have it. I should dig that out. That would be cool.
So was your innate artistic ability seen in that initial drawing, or was it like any other 6-year-old?
Well, you know, I actually, in kindergarten, I drew a prospective Western town. And it was one of the times I got in trouble because the teacher said, "Hey, your parents can't help you." And I go, "My parents didn't do this. They couldn't do it." And so I've always been an artist and always done it, you know, my entire life. And in fact, my brother and I actually drew my California driver's license to give myself permission. You had to be 16 with a driver's license to race cars at a little local racetrack. So my dad wasn't giving me permission, so I drew my California driver's license to give myself permission to race. And my brother and I started racing cars, and I designed the T-shirts for our race team. And what transpired was one of the largest, maybe the top 3 in the country of motorsports T-shirt companies in the 80s and 90s. We had, I think, 85 employees and 20,000 square feet.
Oh, wow.
And we printed shirts 24/7. So I did the top, 60% in NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar, off-road, you name it. And so, drawing for a living's been inherent in my blood.
That's awesome. Now, did that driver's license ever get put to the test?
Well, there's a few things I probably can and can't say on this podcast, but it certainly got me racing. So apparently it worked. And, back then, one of the other fun things to do as an artist was to draw a stamp. So I did draw a stamp and mail in my application for my actual driver's license, and that passed muster, and it was canceled. So that was kind of the fun stuff of being an artist before I decided to go totally on the straight and narrow.
That's cool. I'd love to hear these stories about how someone's passion got started at an early age and you're still doing it today. So speaking of which, tell me exactly, what are you doing today? What kind of fun stuff are you working on?
As of today, right now, I am painting a GT3 Porsche for a client. I was commissioned to do that. And I'm also doing an individual's grandson in his Jeep. And the interesting thing on that painting is it can only be 24 inches by 24 inches is the maximum size in the grandson's dorm room.
Yes.
Normally I work much larger, but I kind of enjoyed the challenge of working smaller and capturing this individual's grandson. So that's what I'm working on today. I have about 25 paintings lined up. In fact, my office manager has a nice list for me. And every day she asks, how many did you get done last night?
That's right. You got to have someone keeping you motivated, right?
I stay motivated. As you could tell and I am so passionate about motorsports and so thrilled, to be one of the few artists that earns a full-time great living off artwork. And with that in mind, I love to mentor other artists. And it doesn't matter to me if they're, more successful than me or just starting out. If somebody needs help, I love to help them out, either some techniques or composition ideas, color ideas, or even where to get posters printed wholesale if you're in the business, what margins, how do you sell it? And a lot of people go, how did you get where you are? And I love to help artists. That's really an important part of what I do. So, every day I try to mentor someone somehow around the country. And in fact, I was the official artist for the inaugural Gateway NASCAR race a month and a half ago in St. Louis. And this security guard came up to me and she goes, oh my God, and I was doing a painting of Joey Logano. And she goes, oh, that's great. And I said, are you an artist? She goes, yeah. And I handed her the paintbrush. I go, well, help me. And,
nice.
And then she did. And then I commissioned a piece of art from her to get her kick-started in her career.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. That's really great. So you're giving into the next generation, right? The next group of artists, investing into them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the next generation could be from 8 to 80. I'm also mentoring a lady that's in her early 80s that lives up here in Northern California near me, and she's a very talented artist. And so we kind of do a loose knit every 6 weeks. We get together with some locals here and do a painting class. And then I do a Zoom kind of painting and motivational class for artists. In fact, I think I'm doing one this Friday.
Now, we have talked a lot about your paintings, but we haven't really specified on what you specialize in. So what are your mediums that you generally gravitate towards? And then obviously it's automotive, but what type of automotive stuff do you gravitate towards?
So to answer your first question, what mediums, I've actually painted and done almost everything. At one point I did photorealism in watercolor. I've done oil painting, pastels, pencil, pen and ink. What I do now is acrylic, and it's old school. It's paintbrush and canvas. And so my forte is motorsports, and, I'm a fanatic about Porsches, so I'm both humbled and proud to be the official artist for the Porsche Club of America for their annual Porsche Parade and their annual Works Reunion, both at Amelia Island and in Monterey Car Week. Additionally, I'm an official artist for Hyundai Motorsports. They actually paid me to paint live after the IMSA race Friday afternoon at Laguna Seca, and they broadcast a new car introduction live all over the planet on their social media with me painting.
Oh, wow.
I also am an official artist for Laguna Seca Raceway, and I'm really thrilled. I do 2 of their 3 big races. I do the IMSA race, and so I've featured the WeatherTech Porsche and the Hyundai Motorsports cars on that. And then I'm also the official artist for the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion, also known as the Monterey Historics. And last year I did a painting featuring Parnelli Jones and George Fulmer, along with the Trans Am Mustangs, and that was just so much fun. I worked with Ford, and we collaborated on that piece. In fact, I have one signed by both of them, which I cherish. This year's is even more special. It is the 100th anniversary of Le Mans in 2023, and Le Mans and Laguna Seca Raceway at the Historics are kicking off this 100-year anniversary with my featured artwork as the poster, art prints, and it'll be sold, I believe, in both, the Monterey area and on websites and in France.
Wow, that's really amazing, and that's quite an honor to be part of that organization like that.
Yeah, I'm just flat out, astounded and humbled and thrilled. And the painting features the 1929 Duesenberg that won at Le Mans in the background, kind of in a duotone in some grays and browns, and then the 1955 D-Type Jag that won, and then the 1967 Ford GT, the red one that won. So those three cars are featured on the painting, and I'm just thrilled to be part of it. I just can't tell you how much.
Yeah, that's really amazing. That's really nice. Now, you've also been involved a little bit with RM Sotheby's, haven't you?
And I'm honored to work with RM Sotheby's. They are the class of the auction companies in the motorsports world. And this last year, Bill Warner and I collaborated along with RM Sotheby's, and I utilized, Bill was the founder of Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance, and Bill was also a world-renowned motorsports photographer. So I used 5 of Bill's photos of Mario Andretti and did a painting that's 4 feet by 5 feet of Mario. And my brother went down to Mario's condo in South Florida at the first IndyCar race, and Mario signed the original painting. Then Bill Warner and I auctioned it off at RM Sotheby's at Amelia Island. And my understanding is we set a record for motorsports artwork for a living artist, and we sold that with the incredible auction talents of RM Sotheby for $138,000, and 100% of that went to Spinal Bifida of Jacksonville. And Bill Warner, myself, and of course I know that you guys, the whole team at RM Sotheby's, were thrilled and honored to be able to collaborate and donate that kind of money.
That was an amazing result. I was in the audience that day. Actually, I was bid spotting, so I was helping out as the bids came in. That was quite an event, and it sounds like you are repeating some of this cool artwork for RM Sotheby's in Monterey, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I can repeat that, and I'm just happy to be able to donate and give back. That's a big part of what I believe in. And so, yes, fortunately and gratefully, RM Sotheby has decided to auction off another one of my paintings. So Bill Warner and I again collaborated, and we got Mark Porsche involved. And Mark Porsche is one of the sons of Bootsy Porsche. And Bootsy Porsche designed the original 911, which was called the 901 back then. He designed the 904 GTS, Porsche race car. And he also founded Porsche Design, that's renowned for its chronographs, its watches, sunglasses, bicycle design, and many other things. And Bootsy passed away 10 years ago, and he founded Porsche Design 50 years ago. So I did a painting of Bootsy celebrating his life and capturing just a small part of what he's accomplished. And so Mark Porsche is coming over from Austria. Bill Warner's going to come out from Florida. So Bill, Mark, Porsche, and myself will be with you again on the auction floor. We'll be announcing and talking about the painting and see what we can do to raise an additional sum for Spinal Bifida of Florida. And once again, I'm just very grateful and humbled to be part of this incredible team that's able to do this.
Yeah, and I know RM Sotheby's really appreciates it, and helping out any type of good cause is just something that I think everyone in the car industry is all about. So that's going to be a really great event. For those of you that will be there, be sure to do not miss that. RM Sotheby's Monterey sale is going to be a little bit insane this year, and that the cars that have come out of the woodwork are just unbelievable and outstanding. I think the low estimate right now for the 3 nights is something like $280 million. It's unbelievable. Even if you don't want to raise a paddle, if you just want to go look at the cars, it is definitely worth it. And definitely, I want everybody to check out Kelly's painting. Now, Kelly, I do have a few artistic questions for you. If you would, share with our listeners your website so they can kind of check out the stuff I've been looking at all day today.
So my website is my name, Kelly Telfer, and that's spelled TELFER.com. I mean, you can go to kellytelfer.com, and that'll show you some of the stuff we're doing in the future. We have some exciting things coming up. We're going to be launching a wine label in the next maybe 9 months. You'll get exclusive art prints and exclusive wine labels. I'm kind of announcing it here on your podcast.
Awesome.
And if you want to go directly to the shopping thing and spend money on art, that's telferdesign.com. And there's a lot of fun stuff in there. I don't know if you're familiar, I'm sure you are, with the pink pig that we came up with.
Yes, I am.
So the pink pig is lovingly referred to for the 1971 Porsche 917. And what they did is they jobbed out part of the aerodynamics to a French firm that was pretty leading edge. When the car came back to Porsche, the engineers go, "Das ist ein pink pig." It was shorter and wider. And so they painted it pink and labeled the cuts of pork in German on the race car. It raced one race, and it was in contention until the 11th hour at Le Mans in 1971 when the left front brake rotor froze up. So I found the original movie prop pig from the movie Porky's, which is about 11 feet long, 5 feet tall, and I painted it in the livery of the Porsche 917 Pink Pig. So that will be at Monterey Car Week in my booth at Laguna Seca and at Works Reunion. After that, it's going to Porsche Marquis, their headquarters in Palo Alto, California. And there's rumors it may end up in Zuffenhausen next to the real Pink Pig.
Oh, wow.
So we started a Pink Pig Fun Club. It's just a way to get a discount on our artwork. And we had Lee Raskin wrote an incredible book about the real Pink Pig and features mine in there. So we have that book for sale on our website. And, that's we're just having fun. We've had a blast. The Porsche executives appreciated it and laughed at it. Grant Larson is the designer of the Boxster, 25 plus years ago. And Grant loved it. He said this kind of shows the tongue-in-cheek German humor of the 70s. And he said it really captures the spirit of Porsche and Porsche racing.
Yeah, and that's really cool because I saw you giving folks, little kids, rides on that, or they could take their picture at Amelia Island, right?
That's exactly right. It has a saddle. You can climb up on it and get your picture taken. Yeah, we had some of the Porsche executives on it and took their pictures. So now I have some blackmail material.
Well, looking at, I absolutely love your artwork, and I'll tell you one of the reasons why here in a second. But looking at the subject matter, obviously Porsche, that's big with you, and VWs, but I also see dirt track racers. I see, Le Mans winners. I see some Shelbys and some Cobras. Are you driven by what the client wants, or did it start with, these are cars I love, so these are ones I want to draw and I want to paint about?
That's a great question. So I follow my passion, and my passion is motorsports and race cars and beautiful vintage street cars. So it happens all ways. Sometimes, some of the early Cobra paintings I did, it's because I'm just so passionate about what Carroll Shelby did with the Cobra and the FIA Cobra stories in 1964. And Bob Bondurant, who raced Cobras back then, actually was a client of mine, and I worked with him on his logo and other stuff for his driving school in the 80s. So, I have a lot of deep connections in motorsports. So I loved painting the Cobra. And additionally, anything that's motorsports or motorsports related, I love doing. And, for example, Hyundai hired me, and I really admire the huge effort they've done in the IMSA race cars and the fact of how they're winning and how they're giving, drivers that aren't normally getting chances a chance to ride in their cars. They have one of the top women racers in motorsports in IMSA, and they have a guy in a wheelchair that they made the car work for him, and he actually won a race a couple weeks ago in the IMSA class. And that's a pro hardcore class, and to me, there's nothing better than working for these kind of clients that do this kind of outstanding stuff in motorsports.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There is a painting I would like some more information on, and I know a little bit about the story, but because of Sean, our mutual friend, but I know I will butcher the story, so I do not want to do that. But tell us about the Brumos Racing Porsche number 59 with the tangerine Porsche next to it.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So my really good friend Peter Sachs, he lives in Jacksonville, and I was in Orlando doing a project with McLaren, and he said, hey, I can get you 20 minutes at the Brumos collection. And this is before it was the Brumos Museum. This was Dano's private collection at 59 Lee Road in Jacksonville. And I said, okay, I'll be there. So we dropped everything and headed over to Jacksonville, and our 20-minute visit in the collection with Don Leatherwood, Hurley Haywood, and all those guys lasted about 5.5, 6 hours. And every car I walked by said, hey, I'll buy that. I'll give you $100,000 for that car that Peter Gregg won Daytona in 1973, the RSR. I'll give you $100,000 for Hurley Haywood's 917K that finished third in Can-Am. And they got sick of me saying, every car I walk by, I go, I'll buy it. And finally I walked by this Bahama yellow original 1968 911. I said, I'll buy it. And they go, yeah, we're thinking of selling it. So we all laughed. Beth and I, my wife, we flew back to California, and a couple days later, I called Don Leatherwood. I go, were you serious about selling that car? He said, no. We've never sold a car to the general public. We have no cars for sale. However, we would consider selling it to you. So I bought this gorgeous Bahama Mama 1968 911 Porsche, sight unseen. And 3 months later, I picked it up and went to Works Reunion, won first place. I took all the credit. I said I slaved on the car for over 9 months. And then I corrected and said, no, I just picked it up from Brumos yesterday. And so the car's original paint, original interior. In fact, Sean Fannin did an incredible video that's in Petrolicious, and it's called Bahama Mama. So if you search Bahama Mama, I think over 200,000 people have watched the video on the car and a little bit on my artwork. But somebody stopped me the other day. I drive it, and I live right in the gold country in Northern California. At the end of my driveway is Highway 49, a beautiful 2-lane mountain road. And I'm out driving it, and I stop and pull over for a minute for some gas or something. A guy comes up behind me, and he starts yelling at me. He goes, that car should be in a museum. I go, actually, I rescued it from 37 years in a museum. This car should be driven.
Yep. I agree with that totally. And if you want to see more of Sean's work, ironically, if you go to Petrolicious and look up the Mustang, 1966 Mustang Simpler Times, that would be the video of my car that he did for us. Oh, yeah. I don't have
cool.
I don't have 200,000 views like your wonderful car does, but it's still a nice watch. So, anyways, no, that's really great. I knew a little bit about that story, but I appreciate you sharing it with the audience here. Now, one thing I did want to bring up, one of the reasons I love your artwork is your color palette is so vibrant and exciting and fun. I just don't understand, how do you see these colors? Like, I don't understand. I'm looking at a Porsche 914 and, it's white, but, there's 18 different colors that make up that white. Like, this might be a tough question, but how do you, see through those eyes of yours to pick up such vibrant colors?
That's also a great question. I could paint what's called photorealism, where it could actually look like a photo, and I did that early on. But I choose to paint with this kind of bright, passionate, bold, big colors. I use large brushes, I use big colors, and I work on large canvases. So my preference is to just have an attitude, have a passion, have a belief, and that's what I like to reflect in the artwork. It does kind of match my personality. It's funny, my wife calls it when I go into sales mode, but at events, I have a blast with customers, interacting with friends and customers and people strolling by, and that's kind of what my art does. It stops people in their tracks. I have people walk by and they stop, and that's it. They walk in and buy a painting. It's done.
Right.
And, I can usually tell right away, they're going to buy something. So I think that's, for me, it's kind of an extension of my personality, big, bold, and, a little bit out there.
I could see that being translated through your personality as well. That comes out in your artwork, which I think is really great.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I have a lot of fun. People go, man, it's so peaceful. You sit there with music on, you paint your gallery, and it's all relaxing. And I said, yeah, it's exactly like sailing. I go, if you look at a sailboat from the shore, it's beautiful, it's peaceful, it's romantic. People are sipping wine on it. In the evenings, I'll drink a glass of wine or two while I'm painting, and people come by and they go, oh, what an idyllic life. And I'm like, well, if you go on a racing sailboat, you're trying to hang on. You're strapped to the boat, so if it flips over, you get flung out at the end of your guy wire. The boom tries to hit you, and the guy's yelling at you to crank harder and get that sail in that falls into the water. So I go, it's pure chaos on a racing boat. It's organized chaos, and actually it's the same way when I paint. It's the same. It's a very similar feeling. I love the painting one minute and hate it the next, and I'm not done till I'm done, and I can't tell you when that is, and it doesn't matter to me how long it takes. It's got to be, in my mind, right. And so it's peaceful and romantic from a distance, and I love it that people think that.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Well, thanks again for being on the Collector Car Podcast. I know I will see you in a few weeks, and I'm hoping that our listeners check you out on your website to see what we're talking about. And if not there, they'll see you at a future Concours. So thanks so much for being on the Collector Car Podcast.
Well, it's the other way around. I want to thank you, and I know you're doing a great job for, publicizing and capturing some of these moments in motorsports. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time and appreciate all you do for us.
Thanks for listening to the Collector Car Podcast. Don't forget to give us a nice rating on iTunes and be sure to follow us on Instagram and everywhere else at the Collector Car Podcast.